Hi guys, welcome to another Kamikaze creation video. A bit of a different perspective in Kamikaze Garage. I'm up in the simulator end of my shed. I've got a little racing sim up here. Haven't got to work on it and play with it that much lately because I've had so many car projects going on. It's got me pretty motivated. One, doing the YouTube channel, which is motivating me to get down the shed and get things done so I can make films. Because I'm enjoying that process and I'm enjoying the discussion with you guys. But anyway, back in the garage, back working, enjoying every minute. I got that receipt from the previous owner, and I'll detail in the description down below all of the parts or what was done to this motor. So I got the sump off last video, and I'm still glad I did that because the silicon sealant that was on there that was absolutely rubbish. I basically wiped it off, grabbed a rag and rubbed it, and it came off. So it wasn't holding real well, and there was a fair bit of leaking going on. So I'm glad I took that sump off. I bought some of the Toyota silicon, which I'll show you in a second. Toyota black it was for sumps and oil areas, and it's a really gooey type product and really good. It's got a great little tube squeezer tool that comes with it, which is really good. Anyway, the boys on Toy Mods put me onto that. I was looking for gaskets, couldn't find one, and came to the conclusion that it was just done with the sealant. Asked that question on the Toy Mod sites, and bingo, got the answer. And everyone, there were a few alternatives, but I really like the thought of going with the Toyota product. That's what they use in the factory, so it's good enough for me to use in the shed. Anyway, the mission is get that sump back on, get it nipped down, try not to break any sump bolts, done that many a time on other projects. And if I can get some time, also flip it back over, polish the other rocker cover and get that on. So basically the engine's sealed up again. I've been doing a fair bit of research on engine management systems, ECUs, and all of the different sensors you need to get a motor to work. It's a bit of a learning curve for me, that one. Never done this type of stuff. When I build my UC Tirana, the supercharger kit is coming for that very soon. That's been built for me by Shane Barnett down in Victoria. So it's a full, it was known when I saw it advertised as the full box and dice. Comes with the ECU, the fuel rail, injectors, M90 supercharger, custom made manifold, all that type of stuff. But I'm going to have to set it all up. So I'm going to learn a bit in that process that'll help me with this car. So that's what I've been doing lately. Going to get that sump back on, get the rocker cover cleaned up, get the engine sealed up again, and I'm not far off putting the gearbox back on. So that's the mission. Probably take a couple of videos to get to there, but I'll get into it today. Well guys, with that absolutely awesome information and receipt detailing what was done with this motor, I think it's time to start putting it back together. So I've started cleaning up these gasket faces, give them a really good clean up, wipe them down, get rid of all of the oil. Got to do the same on the actual sump, which is pretty grotty and filthy, so it needs a really good clean up. And then I've also got this, I suppose it's a wash plate. It holds the oil a bit more stable in the sump. That goes between the gasket face and the actual sump face. So looks to be like a fair bit of gasket goo on every face. There's about 3 or 4 faces that are all combining there. Now I'm not sure what this red stuff is. It's some sort of gasket compound, but it hasn't adhered very well, and that's probably why the sump was actually leaking. So I need to give that a fairly good clean up. I've got all my all the original bolts that I took out. They were actually listed on that receipt that I received, sump bolts. And the great gentleman, probably ladies as well, on Toy Mods, pointed me in the direction of the genuine Toyota black sealant. So that was the last one that was on the shelf in the little town that I live in. Ring up the Toyota dealership. They said, yeah, got one on the shelf. So I bolted down big time and picked that up. I know there's probably a few aftermarket products that would do a similar thing, but if this is good enough for Toyota on their motors at the factory, it's good enough for me to use. So that's the process. Get all of these parts, bolts, this plate, sump, back onto the engine. I've decided I'm going to use this sump, even though I was a bit concerned about the volume. I've had a bit of a look at the original sump, and even though it looks like there's been a lot cut out of there, that was basically the original shape, and there's not as much volume as I thought had come out of it. So I'm going to reuse that, seeing that was on there already, and get it back on and sealed up. Had a really good clean up. That gasket goo on there, I reckon it was some sort of stag. It had the colour of that red stag, and it just sort of wiped off. It didn't really even have a grip on the metal. It was pretty bad. On the surface of this you can see some of the original black gasket. There's still a little bit of the stag there too. But anyway, yeah, there's a little bit of more porous stuff. It's probably just black paint. Down in the sump, I've given that all a really good clean out. I had a look at this join here and check the other side, because it's been seam welded on the other side, so it all seems reasonably good. This wash plate, not sure exactly what it's called. It fits over the oil strainer there, and I'll fit that on in a second and show you. It's all reasonably clean as well, and I've cleaned off all of the gasket face on there. There's a few little spots on there, but nothing too much. So I'll sit this plate on and show you where it goes. So that plate's in place. Obviously the sump sitting below it, so I think it's just stopping a lot of the splash of the oil going up into the conrods, keeping a bit of flow there and keeping the oil volume in the sump so it can be picked up by that strainer. So I've just done a little bit of a trial assembly. That little plate in under the sump there was a little bit bent, so I've got it sitting a bit flatter. There is one little stud sitting there, like a location stud, so I think that's pretty good design. Helps it locate, and once you get one bolt in, at least the other should line up. So it's just to put the gasket goo on and then nip it all down. So I might get all my bolts ready so that it's a reasonably quick process. As they say, prior preparation prevents poor performance. So I'm all set up, ready to go. Checked all my bolts, got all the washers ready to go. I love this little tube squeezer thingy. Slides onto that and rotate it up, squeeze it out. That's pretty cool. So I'm ready to go. I'm going to apply the gasket compound that says that you've basically got 3 minutes from when you do the application to fitting it all up. So I'm into it. So there you go, guys. It's all done. I didn't bother torquing them. I did a fair bit of reading online about torque settings for these. Most people said that when they've used torque wrenches, they've actually sheared them off. So all I did was I actually rattled them down with that rattle gun, which locked them up pretty well, and I torqued them from the inside out, similar to what you do a head gasket, so opposites, and work one way out until you get worked out to the end, and then I went around them with a 10mm spanner, and just with the finger on them to bring them down. They're quite nice, and the gasket goo is squeezing out nicely. That is quite nice stuff, that gasket goo. Anyway, hopefully that doesn't leak. Hi guys, well, quite a few hours have passed in the process of starting to put this motor back together, and that's a really exciting phase for me. Personally, it stresses me out pulling things apart. I enjoy it, but it's just that thought of being able to put it back together. And as someone said to me early on when I was pulling this apart, they said it's only nuts and bolts, and I love that saying. It's a brilliant saying, and I think about that regularly when the stress levels rise up. I'm just excited. This is the fun part for me. I've gone to the point of pulling it apart. I'm going to give it to me mate to do the paint job. He's the one pulling it apart, so that doesn't worry me. It's exciting to go up there and see it done. But this engine, I'm starting to put it back together. It's a great process putting that sump back on. I feel really good about it. That gasket glue is brilliant, and I think it's going to seal it up really well. I've put the polished rocker cover back on, and I'm going to polish up that second rocker cover over the coming days. I've also got a lot of those parts I bought from Megazip coming, so the thermostat housing, the water pump, and the gaskets, so I can start looking at putting the intake and exhaust back on. I've got a bench full of stuff just sitting there, and that's all the stuff that I need to put back on. All the other stuff you saw me show you over the back that I wasn't using. So the process is good. I'm enjoying putting it back together, that's for sure, finding all those nuts and bolts and fitting them back in. It shouldn't be long before it's at that stage where I could slip it back in the car. And the car, I reckon 2 weeks to get it up to painting, and it could be 4 to 5 weeks up there. So we're looking at a couple of months. In that process, I've got another project that I will be working on that's going to be very exciting to watch, and that's going to teach me a lot about running a computer system and forced induction on a different car, on my UC Tirana. So that'll be a series of videos that'll be happening in the next few weeks. So anyway guys, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, thanks for commenting. I love all of the feedback. Thank you so much, and bye for now.